Hi, welcome to Anaprime Recap. You wake up from a sleep that has lasted 500 years and all your memories have been lost. You don't even remember your name. The only thing you know is that you are a witch and your fate will be crucial in determining the future of humanity. We are in the anime, Bayonetta, Bloody Fate. Hundreds of years ago, in a remote area of Europe called Vigrid, lived the overseers of history. This group was divided into witches and sages, who were responsible for keeping Earth safe. Witches were allied with demons, while sages were allied with angels, thus maintaining the balance of the planet. However, this balance was broken due to the union between a witch and a sage. This relationship resulted in the birth of a child, who later became a witch, and possessed the power of the overseer's left eye. According to the prophecy, the union of light and darkness would bring calamity and chaos to the world. The sages had the domain of the overseer's right eye power and they desired to unite the two powers to bring to life Jubilius, the creator of the new world. The witches did not want to allow this to happen, which led to a conflict and, later, two great wars between the races. These wars nearly resulted in the extinction of witches and sages. When the conflict ended, the child, the fruit of the union between light and darkness, was sealed in a secret place and slept for several centuries. Bayonetta's story takes place 500 years after all this chaos. In a church, a nun is performing her prayer ritual when suddenly, dozens of angels appear and start attacking her. The woman goes towards them and throws punches, destroying them one by one. Unarmed, the nun dodges all of their blows, until the angels band together to destroy her. The woman had her clothes completely ripped. As her disguise had been destroyed, she transforms and her black hair begins to cover her entire body, giving rise to a garment of darkness. The woman was not alone in that church. A man named Rodan followed everything closely while he played the piano. One of those creatures decides to attack him, and when approaching him, the man grabs the monster by the neck and throws him away. Then, Rodan opens a portal through which a pair of weapons emerge, and gives it to the woman, whom he calls Bayonetta. If empty-handed, she already took out the angels easily. Now that she was armed, they didn't stand a chance. In a few seconds, Bayonetta pops the heads of all her opponents. At the end of the battle, the woman leaves through one of the church's windows and lands on top of Luca's car, who was also inside the church taking pictures of the battle. Luca is a journalist obsessed with showing the world the true identity of Bayonetta, who was hiding behind her nun disguise. Seconds later, a gigantic angel appears and orders the woman to release all her powers from the darkness, so that the creator can be reincarnated. Even without knowing what that creature was talking about, Bayonetta continues to attack him. She dodges all of his attacks until she finally lands her first blow, which, while not destroying that angel, is capable of causing excruciating pain to him. She then summons a creature of darkness to devour him. After the battle, Rodan appears and says goodbye to the woman. She then goes after Luca, who was hiding during the fight. Bayonetta destroys the camera the young man had used to record the battle. He aims to get revenge on the witch, as he believes she was responsible for killing his father 20 years ago. Luca's father was there when Bayonetta awoke from her deep sleep. That same day, the young man saw him being destroyed. Luca claims that he will never forget the scent of the creature that killed him. According to him, it is a sweet smell of rosemary, which he believes belongs to Bayonetta. But the woman informs him that rosemary is an herb used to scare off witches, so she couldn't use it. Just then, they hear police cars approaching. Bayonetta runs away and leaves Luca behind. In Rodan's bar, they remember the day the woman woke up from the bottom of a lake. She had no memories of her past, didn't even know what her name was, only remembered that she was a witch. So, Rodan gave her the name Bayonetta. On television, a news report reported the appearance of Balder, CEO of the Ithavoll Group and owner of a large fortune. A man who was at the bar says that, according to his informants, this guy is a descendant of the legendary sages, who were devotees of the light and enemies of witches. When looking at Balder's face, Bayonetta has a strange memory. In her vision, the man called her daughter and said he was waiting for her. The woman picks up a kind of lipstick, which she was holding at the moment she woke up 20 years ago. She looks at the object and tells Rodan that she is interested in meeting Balder as she believes he has the key so she can regain her memories. The next day, she takes a train and leaves for Vigrid, where Balder is. Luca finds a report about the first appearance of the leader of the Ithavoll Group and also decides to go there to investigate. The wagon Bayonetta is in is attacked by a mysterious woman named Jean, who possesses magical powers similar to the witch. Bayonetta shoots her, but Jean manages to dodge the bullets. She is curious to know who that powerful woman is, because until then she didn't know of the existence of other witches. Jean says that Bayonetta has slowed down since she woke up from her deep sleep, meaning the two already knew each other. The woman even says that if Bayonetta beat her in that fight, she would tell her all about her past. The battle continues. The two exchange shots and Bayonetta is thrown away. They continue exchanging blows and the witch realizes that her weapons are being destroyed. Gradually, she remembers fragments of her past and recalls a fight she had with Jean. At the end of the battle, Bayonetta's weapons are completely destroyed and, realizing that her opponent is unarmed, Jean leaves. Bayonetta returns to Rodin's bar and asks him to fix her weapons. Then she takes a motorcycle and continues her journey to Vigrid. However, on the way, she is swallowed by a portal that takes her to the underworld. Bayonetta finds a child who runs towards her, calling her mother. But before they can meet, a horde of angels appears and attacks the woman. She draws her flaming sword and, with a single blow, takes out two of those creatures. She then defeats the other angels, cutting them in half. The girl was being held hostage by one of those monsters, but the woman manages to defeat it easily and rescues the little girl. Now Bayonetta needs to defeat the last angel to get out of that place alive. They exchange a few sword blows, but the monster has powerful armor that not even the witch's blows can penetrate. Upon realizing this, she summons a giant chainsaw. With this immense cursed weapon in her hands, the woman rips the angel in half. At the end of the battle, the girl kept calling Bayonetta mother and insisted on accompanying her. The child introduces herself as Cereza and says that her father left her there and asked her to wait for her mother to come get her. Bayonetta picks up an amulet that the girl dropped. The object was identical to the one she carried on her chest. As soon as she gets her hands on it, the woman has a vision. She remembers a place at war, where the bodies of hundreds of witches were strewn across the floor. In the skies, a creature watched all that chaos while smiling. When you look closer, you can see the resemblance between Balder and that man. Bayonetta asks the girl where she got that artifact and the child replies that her mother gave it to her on the day of her birth. The woman returns the amulet to her and asks the girl to keep it carefully. With the girl on her motorcycle, the witch goes back through the portal and returns to her journey. During the night, while they were in the shower, Luca breaks into the room through the window. He places a microphone on the desk, but before he can leave, the man is spotted by the witch and the girl. Luca is surprised to see Cereza calling Bayonetta mother. The woman walks towards him, but the man walks away and ends up falling off the balcony. Luckily for him, he manages to hold himself on the balcony, avoiding a fatal fall. Luca spent that entire night monitoring the room through the microphone he had installed. While Cereza was asleep, Bayonetta decides to go confront him. During the conversation, Luca again claims that the witch was responsible for his father's death. He explains that his father, like him, was a journalist and dedicated his life to unraveling the mysteries of sages and witches. However, he was eventually eliminated the night he encountered Bayonetta. The young man's goal is to reveal the woman's true identity to the world. That way, maybe he could discover the truth behind the studies his father didn't finish. According to his notes, 500 years ago, the sages and witches suddenly disappeared and all traces of them were lost. And now that Balder, a descendant of the sages, had emerged, he was even closer to discovering the truth. Just then, they hear Cereza crying in the room as she calls out to her mother. Bayonetta goes to find her and says she hates her crying. The woman is still in a rage, saying that if the girl continued to cry, she would abandon her. The next day, that's exactly what happens. Cereza wakes up and finds her mother nowhere to be found. She then goes to talk to Luca, who was sleeping on a bench outside. Cereza wakes him up and, in tears, says that her mother abandoned her because she cries a lot. Luca soon offers to help her look for Bayonetta, so they set off together on their way to Vigrid. In the city, Balder already prophesied that the two eyes that ruled the world were about to be reunited to give rise to the creator, Jubilius. While on her motorcycle, on her way to Vigrid, Bayonetta is chased by a float that belonged to the angels. Army soldiers were standing on the road when they heard a very loud noise, but they couldn't see anything. Suddenly, Bayonetta passes over one of the tanks and, right behind, was the angel car, which destroys everything in front of it. Upon entering the tunnel, an angel tries to hit her with his rays. But the woman manages to lose him and summons a demonic creature to devour him. In a few seconds, the giant centipede manages to finish off that car. But the angels still haven't given up on capturing Bayonetta. As soon as she manages to get rid of one of them, a new creature appears. This time, the angel was larger than any she had faced and was accompanied by a legion of celestial creatures. But Bayonetta doesn't give up. The more angels the witch hunts, the more powerful she feels. To help her in that battle, the witch opens several portals, through which dozens of demons come out. Two giant arms come out of these portals and tear the angel to pieces, destroying every part of its body. Then he is pulled into the depths of the underworld. Luca, who was with Cereza on the way to Ithavoll Tower, arrives at the scene and tries to find Bayonetta. He was about to board a helicopter to get to the tower, but Cereza informs him that the ghosts were approaching. The man looks around and sees nothing strange, but the girl lends him her glasses and he can see armed angels flying towards them. One of them approaches from behind and almost hits Luca with his weapon. He grabs the girl and tries to run away, but ends up being cornered. As he was about to be killed, Bayonetta appears and shoots all those creatures. However, as the woman doesn't have a moment of peace, soon after, a celestial dragon appears and starts chasing her. While fighting her new opponent, Luca and Cereza fled by helicopter. Bayonetta transforms her weapon and shoots 2 missiles into the dragon's mouth, destroying that monster from the inside. Then she gets into the helicopter and together they make their way to the tower. As they approach there, the helicopter ends up being destroyed by a missile fired by Jean. Bayonetta uses her powers to protect Luca and Cereza and goes after the woman responsible for that attack. The fight between the two begins, they exchange blows, but Jean uses her weapon to destroy Bayonetta's sword. During the battle, Jean tries to get the witch to regain her memories. She quotes an ancient prophecy, which said that the cross between light and darkness would bring calamity to Earth. The result of this calamity was the destruction of witches and sages. She still completes, saying that everything happened because of the birth of Bayonetta. After Jean reveals this, the witches are teleported to heaven, where hundreds of angels were waiting to destroy them. But before the battle begins, Rodin appears and gives Bayonetta the weapons he had repaired. And then, he returns to his bar. Now that they were equally armed, the witches continued their fight. During the battle, Bayonetta has flashbacks of her past and remembers the first time she faced Jean. The more she regains her memories, the stronger she gets and eventually manages to beat her opponent. At that moment, more than one of her memories resurfaces and Bayonetta remembers the day she lost her mother, during a war between witches and sages. Before dying, the woman gave her an object and asked the girl to kill her father, as his soul was trapped in madness. The angels wanted to capture Bayonetta to have the power of the left eye and bring to life the creator of the new world. To prevent the angels from taking this power, which was sealed in Bayonetta, Jean sealed the witch at the bottom of a lake and there she stayed for 500 years, until finally awakening, 2 decades ago. Now that she has regained her memory, the witch realizes that Jean was not her enemy. In fact, she was the one who protected her for hundreds of years. The woman asks Bayonetta to defeat Balder and put an end to that story. At that moment, the sage appears and hits Jean with a lightning. Once inside the tower, Bayonetta is reunited with Luca and Cereza. The three walk together to the center of the tower. Cereza hears her father's voice and runs towards him. They go through a portal and there they find Balder. He orders the girl to go to her room, but before leaving, she tells Bayonetta that she will no longer cry and claims that one day she will become a witch as powerful as her mother. At that moment Bayonetta already knew that Cereza was herself in the past and Balder was actually her father. The man possessed the power of the right eye and needed the power of the left eye, which was sealed in his daughter, to bring back Jubilius and purify the 3 worlds, heaven, earth and hell. Luca interrupts and Balder says that, like his father, he had become a great journalist. He also reveals that he had to kill the young man's father, as the man had done research on his plan and ended up finding Bayonetta, who was actually called Cereza. Moments later, the young man is captured by angels. Despite not being able to see them, Luca can identify that smell and remembers that it was the same smell he sensed on the day of his father's death. Bayonetta shoots the creatures and saves Luca. The young man asks forgiveness for having wrongfully accused her all this time. He discovers that on the day Bayonetta was found, Balder sent his angels to kill him. Luca tries to attack Balder, but the sage fights back and without laying a finger on the young man, manages to launch him out of the tower. Balder reveals that all he had done was to help Bayonetta regain her memories and thus be able to access the power of her left eye. The witch aims her gun at the man, but before she can shoot, the amulet given to her by her mother begins to glow, releasing great power. Balder takes her out of the tower and combines his powers with hers, giving birth to Jubilius, the creator of the new world. Trapped inside that creature, Bayonetta remembers her mother's request. Jean, who everyone thought was dead after being struck by Balder's lightning, appears and orders the sage to return the power that was in the witch's possession. She then shoots Jubilius in the left eye and frees Bayonetta. The witches now need to find a way to stop Balder. Bayonetta releases one of her demons to attack him, but the creature is quickly destroyed. The witches combine their powers to bring Sheba, the queen of hell, to face Jubilius. The fight begins and the creator makes the first attack. Sheba manages to neutralize him and goes for the boss, throwing him away. Even during that supernatural battle, Balder tries to convince Bayonetta to join him. The witch refuses, claiming that there is no fun in living in a world made as her way. Sheba takes her whip and uses it to trap Jubilius. Then Bayonetta prepares to shoot. Instead of bullets, she uses the lipstick left by her mother. The shot goes through Balder's head, ending the last sage. With her weapon, Sheba finishes the attack and destroys all traces of Jubilius. Now that the three worlds are safe, Jean and Bayonetta return to Earth. A year has passed, and while visiting his father's headstone, Luca reveals that he hasn't heard from Bayonetta since. But the young man believes that they will meet again. Somewhere on the planet, witches were still hiding in their disguises. Jean became a teacher and Bayonetta continued to live her life as a nun. However, both maintained a double life and continued to protect humanity from the angels. Was Baldur finally defeated after 500 years, or will he return even more powerful and thirsty for revenge? So what did you think of this anime? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more anime recaps. See you next time.